On all counts, CCR is fighting for the preservation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Since 9/11, CCR has filed numerous cases challenging this government's utter disregard for these precious guarantors of democracy. We will continue to work tirelessly in the defense of human rights and the rule of law in the United States and around the world.
The Center for Constitutional Rights is only a mile and a half from 9/11, from the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center.
We, as the center, made a decision that, knowing what was going to happen, that we would go into the community, work with the Muslim community here in New York, and see if we could try to develop a relationship whereby we could be helpful.
First, there were the roundups of thousands of Muslims, and our office started getting calls, where's my husband, where's my brother, where's my father? And you would be lied to by the administration. And as it turns out, of course, those people were moved around to different prisons. They were treated as if they were terrorists, even though they were just non-citizen Muslims with no record of terrorism. None of them turned out to be terrorists. I wake up November 14th, 2001, and the president has issued, and it's the front pages of the paper, what's called Military Order Number 1. It says the president can pick up any non-citizen anywhere in the world and detain them forever, without any kind of trial, with any kind of right to a writ of habeas corpus.
Fourth Amendment and the Constitution requires that if you're being held in these ways, you're entitled to certain things. You're entitled to be charged with a crime. You're entitled to go in front of a judge and demand that there be evidence. You're entitled to a lawyer. You're entitled to all sorts of things that they weren't getting. So as a result of that activity, that was our first post-9/11 activity. We started a lawsuit that became Kirkman versus Ashcroft.
Gita Gutierrez is a lawyer who flies regularly from her office at the Center for Constitutional Rights in New York to Guantanamo. Her organization represents about 200 detainees.
In early January, it's announced that some people are going to Guantanamo. We knew that when people were sent to Guantanamo, the government's argument was that they're outside of the courts and the government could do whatever they wanted to them. It was that moment when we made the decision that we could, even if it was going to lose us our funding, even if it was going to be difficult for us personally, that we would take these cases.
Rasul was one of those early cases, and what happened was that we filed a petition for habeas corpus on his behalf. And ultimately, the court decided that people who are held at Guantanamo do have a right to go into court and demand habeas corpus. Courts have jurisdiction to hear these claims and applications. And so this is what the Rasul case decided, and it was a great case, a landmark case. These people were then called by the President of the United States the worst of the worst. It turns out they were not the worst of the worst. They were, often ordinary people.
Can you state that you know categorically that men have been mistreated here at Guantanamo?
Absolutely. And I can say that not simply based on client interviews and discussions with my clients about their interrogations or their conditions of confinement over the years at Guantanamo. There have also been things like an interrogation log that outlines very clearly the aggressive interrogation tactics used, particularly against one prisoner, that were authorized all the way up the chain of command to Secretary Rumsfeld.
And it's not as though this is really furthering the war on terrorism. But it does maybe make the administration and Bush and Rumsfeld look as though they're doing something.